and dark. I am the hungry shark, fast and merciless. But the only girl who could talk to him just couldn't swim. Tell me what's worse than this. And the echoes in the halls, they dance along the walls, the memories of your ghosts. You were the one that I used to love, and I'm still in love, and I never loved you the most. I've seen better days, so afraid in my youth. I can't breathe, restless.
G'day everyone, if you are a regular of the channel, then this video is going to look a little bit different to most of the others. If you are new here, welcome, please feel free to hang around. Today we are looking at impact drivers, one of the most common tools in any toolbox. Before we get started, a couple of quick notes for the people who are going to complain in the comment section. At the time of recording, these are the top models from each of these brands. If you're watching this a year from now and you're complaining because the latest Gen 5 Milwaukee's not in the video, then you really need to work out how time works. Picking the time to film one of these videos without one of these companies bringing out an impact driver while you're making the video is pretty hard, because companies just pump out impact drivers these days. And the second thing I need to bring up is batteries. Now, you cannot get an equal battery that is going to be the same on all of these impact drivers, okay? It's not possible, doesn't happen. I know me saying this isn't going to mean a thing to those of you who just love to complain about batteries, so you might as well just do it now before I even start the video. These aren't all free tools. I don't just ring up companies and get freebies like so many YouTubers do. So the only ones that are freebies are the ones on each end, the AEG and the Ryobi. All the other tools and batteries I've had to pay for myself. This is the 5 amp hour battery the AEG/Rigid will be using. The 5 amp hour battery on the Bosch. The 5 amp hour battery on the DeWalt. This is a multi-volt battery on the Hikoki/Metabo HPT, and it is a 36 volt battery at 2.5 amps, or at 18 volts it is a 5 amp hour battery. It has 10 18650 cells, just like all the other batteries in this test, and it is the closest you can get, because remember we're running at 36 volts, so it's the same cells but different voltage. 18 volt Makita 5 amp hour battery. Makita 40 volts, same as the Hikoki. It has 10 cells that add up to 2.5 if we're running at 36 volt/40 volt, or 5 amp hours if it was an 18 volt battery. Milwaukee 5 amp hour battery. Panasonic 5 amp hour battery. And right at the end, close up to the screen, is the Ryobi 5 amp hour. All the batteries, of course, will be freshly fully charged, and all of the impact drivers in later tests will be on the top speeds unless otherwise stated. And another little quick thing I'll just point out, because some people seem to be getting this wrong and I see people saying it incorrectly on the internet. Impact drivers have more torque in higher settings, not less. They don't have more torque in the lowest setting. That is a drill. Drills have more torque in lower settings than higher settings. Impact drivers are the reverse. Impact drivers also impact in a radial fashion. They impact like that. They're screwing your screw in. Dunk, 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 dunk. They're not going backwards and forwards, hammering it in. Right, with all that said, let's get into this thing. Now, instead of putting a boring graph up with all the different things, and you got to look at a graph and try and look at all the different columns and stuff, I'm going to line these up in order like this in each respective category. All those things you saw at the beginning, the torque settings, the heights, the weights and stuff, we'll line them up so you can visually see how each one fits in that scheme, so you can see where the one you would like fits in the best. And then once we've done that a few times, we will go and do some tests with these things. We'll do one thing that will also get people complaining in the comments. We'll drill some holes. Yes, you can drill holes with impact drivers. And of course we will drive screws. Now, I shouldn't need to introduce these, as you've just seen the intro, hopefully, as long as you didn't skip it. But anyway, we'll just quickly go. AEG/Rigid. In the States, that would be a Rigid. Here, it's the AEG. Then we've got a Bosch. We've got the new DeWalt, the new Hikoki, the 18 volt Makita here, the 40 volt Makita, the Gen 4 Milwaukee, a Panasonic, just for fun, and the Ryobi. So starting off with weight, they look like this. On the right, at 1,155 grams, we have the Bosch impact driver. And we work our way down the line to the lightest, the Panasonic down the end here with only 810 grams. That's 345 grams lighter than the Bosch. The Bosch is a bit heavy, although it is a little bit different to the others. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit later on. When it comes to height, as you can see, there's not much difference. There's not much point in me changing these around much, apart from it looks as though the Makita 18 volt is the shortest. And the Ryobi looks quite short there too. Let's put that up the front. Ryobi just a little bit higher than the Makita there. But basically when it comes to height, they're all very, very similar. But the highest being the DeWalt and the Bosch. When it comes to length, the Panasonic kicks butt, unless you are talking about the base, which is significantly longer than the top section here. But if we put them in order from shortest to longest, it looks like this. Starting down here at the back, the Panasonic comes in at only 98 millimeters, less than 4 inches. Then we jump to the Makita at 111, 112, 113, 119, 120, 127, 141 and 147. So there is a massive difference between the shortest and longest, coming in at almost 2 inches shorter, the Panasonic over the Bosch. Next up, which one spins the quickest? Well, it's been doing well in the comparison so far, but when it comes to RPM, the Panasonic is the slowest, coming in at only 2700, followed by the Ryobi at only 2900. Those are quite low numbers when you compare them to the rest of these tools. Coming in at 3400, big jump. We have the AEG/Rigid and the Bosch also 3400. Then we jump another couple of hundred to the Makita 18 volt at 3600, the Hikoki at 3700, the Makita 40 volt also at 3700. And then which of these two takes the prize for the fastest impact driver based on RPMs? Well, it's the Milwaukee, with the DeWalt coming in at 3800 and the Milwaukee at 3900. Now, will the impacts stay in that order for the amount of impacts per minute? Well, coming in at 3800, the least amount of impacts is the Makita 18 volt. We then jump up to 4000 impacts with the Ryobi, so the Ryobi stays in the second spot there. Then we have 3 coming in at 4100, the Bosch, the Panasonic and the Hikoki. Jumping up to 4400, we have the AEG and the Milwaukee. 2 left. Who is going to take the top prize for most impacts per minute? It's the Makita, the DeWalt coming in at 4500 and the Makita 4600 impacts per minute, the Makita 40 volt TD002G, that is. Let's put them in order now of modes. So we'll go from lowest amount of modes to highest amount of modes, left to right. So that will start with the DeWalt. 3 modes, 4 modes, 4 modes, 4 modes, 4 modes. Then we get a little bit tricky here. This one's kind of 4+ because you can tweak them on Bluetooth if you've got a Bluetooth battery. And then, so this is 4+. This is sort of 5, I think. Once again, you can fiddle with things with Bluetooth. Then a big jump up to the Makita 18 volt with 8 different modes. And the buttons are on the back. We'll maybe talk about that later. And coming in, the winner with 10 modes, the Makita 40 volt. If you want something that will do everything, loosening nuts, bolts, multiple different speeds, speeding up, slowing down, tech screws, all sorts of things, that has all the settings you will ever need. Before I put them in order of the number that you want to see the most, I'll first just tell you which country each one is made in case you are interested. These ones are made in China. Ryobi, AEG Rigid, Milwaukee, DeWalt, Panasonic, Hikoki. Dope. All of those impact drivers are made in China, even though these two in these colors are only available in Japan. The Bosch is made in Malaysia, and these two Japanese Makitas are made in, you guessed it, Japan. But the domestic models where you live may be made in China. Now, the most contentious ranking of the video thus far. Torque rating. Now, these are going to be the torque numbers that the companies give these things, not the actual torque numbers, but the ones they say are the actual torque numbers. So the torque in conjunction with the RPMs and the impacts per minute are what make these things the most powerful or not, in theory. But numbers don't always add up from tool companies. But the numbers as they stand from the manufacturers are thus. Coming in at a mere 155 Newton meters is the Panasonic. In second place with 180, the Makita 18 volt. Coming in at number 3, depending on how you look at things, is a fairly new impact driver, and companies put different things on websites all the time and change their minds about impact ratings. But this one's definitely 200, possibly more. But at the time of recording, they had changed this to only 200 Newton meters. Bosch, 210. Makita 40 volt, 220. Milwaukee Gen 4, 226. Then we've got some wild numbers. These ones thus far, basically, I believe. But now things might be starting to get a bit fanciful on the remaining ones. Because coming in at 260, the AEG. At 282, the DeWalt. But the winner at 300 Newton meters is Ryobi. Now, if you know anything about power tools, at this point you'll be having a bit of a chuckle, no doubt. But we'll see how these really stack up when we start testing them. Let's now put a battery on these things and we'll check out the lights that come with them. Right, I'm just going to go along and pull the triggers. I've put them in roughly the order I think they're going to be, with the weakest here on the left. I don't even know why they put a light on it. It's so gutless. Followed by the Bosch, also a pretty gutless light. Lights up a bigger area, but not very bright at all. The Ryobi fires light up from the base. The AEG, pretty similar, but it's a bit more orangey coloured. And then we get into the ones that have got the lights in the right place as far as I'm concerned. The Milwaukee, very orange light. The Makita 40 volt, much brighter than the others thus far. Then we have the DeWalt. Now this one will stay on for 20 minutes. As you can see, pretty bright, but only in one focused area, which is mostly what you need, I suppose. But it does have 3 settings, and it also can stay on for 20 minutes. The Hikoki. And finally, the winner, the Makita 18 volt with the awesome ring light. It'll be good when all impact drivers have a light like this, because this is definitely the superior way to go with lighting on an impact driver or an impact wrench or anything like that. And if you put it in the middle where you can't pull the trigger, if you pull the trigger, you'll get the light, but you can't turn, run the tool. You can just turn the light on and off, and it'll now just stay on for an hour, I do believe. So you can basically just use it as a torch if you're looking for things around the place. Look how well this lights up the area. Fantastic little light. And the only other light that's still going is the very first one we turned on, which was the Panasonic. Let's have a look at them all from the front. These 3 up on the right here, clearly superior to the others. 125mm or 5 inches into treated pine at top speed. 3, 2, 1. Up close vibration test to show you one of the worst ones versus one of the best ones. Very different. Batteries are all topped up, ready to go again, and in this test we are going to be drilling 35mm holes. Each impact driver will be on its top speed. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. Panasonic's none too happy. When I was using the Milwaukee in this test, it didn't feel quite right, the Gen 4. Just seemed a little bit sluggish. It was definitely on speed 3. I checked it, but it seemed to be about the same as the Makitas, whereas the Gen 3 used to smash the Makitas. Now, I'm not sure if it's the screws I'm using, because the screws I'm using, the Simpson Strong Drive, Super fucking whatever they are, they go in pretty easy, no matter what impact driver you're using. With bigger screws, wider diameter screws and stuff like that, bigger bolts, then the Milwaukees usually end up smashing everybody else, sort of thing. But in this test, it didn't. The AEG beat this, the DeWalt beat this, and it was sort of just middle of the pack, and it confused me a little bit. Now, I'm not sure if that's because I'm used to using it with higher output batteries than the 5 amp hour, which I'm about to chuck on charge here. We're going to charge that up again, and I'm going to test it against the Gen 3, because the Gen 3, I mean, it just smashes in everything so fast, and I want to see if it's just the Gen 4 being a little bit sluggish. because I would have expected Milwaukee to do much better in that test, and I know if I don't look into it, everybody's going to say that I had it on the wrong speed or I faked it or some bullshit like that. So I'm just now going to put these two up against each other with the 5 amp hour, and then we'll maybe chuck it on the... Better plug that in, eh? We'll chuck this on it as well and just see what difference it makes. Now, it's super hard to see lights on Milwaukee gear in the sun, but let's see if we can see this. Can you see that there's 4 lights there? Pretty hard to see, and that it's also in the top speed. Let's do this. 5 amp hour battery, Gen 4. Let's go. Okay, keep the camera rolling. We've now got the Gen 3. Take the battery off the Gen 4. Chuck it on the Gen 3. Take out the driver bit. Gen 3 on the top speed. Maybe it's just the battery. I'm just not used to using these old batteries anymore. I'll now do them both with the high output 6 amp hour. Gen 3 top speed, 6 amp hour high output. 3, 2, 1. Pretty quick. So I didn't notice a huge amount of difference there. So yeah, maybe it's just the battery. Maybe with a 5 amp hour battery that's a little bit old, it's pretty much the same as every other impact. Because the AEG did very well in that test, didn't it? As did the DeWalt. Okay, why not? How fast is the Gen 4 with the new 12 amp hour forge? 3, 2, 1. Gen 4. Let's go. Bad. Okay. Leave your conspiracy theories down in the comment section. I was also pretty disappointed with the results from the Bosch, but I also checked that in speed 3. And it sounds really quick until it has to do any work. And then like every other Bosch impact driver I've had, it just can't handle anything with any torque. Despite the numbers, it's just so slow. When it comes to the results of the TTI Trio, you will recall this one has the highest torque rating, followed by the AEG, followed by the Milwaukee, yet results in reality are usually the other way around. If you take a look at this video that I did in a video just about these 3 impact drivers over on my other channel, Builds and Stuff, you'll see with very massive screws, the Milwaukee will win in the end, and the Ryobi, it doesn't have the torque that it says it does. I've always been pleasantly surprised with this impact driver though. It's one of my favorite impact drivers. I like that the buttons are on the back like I said earlier, and it's just got a good amount of power and speed, and with smaller screws, if you go and watch that video that I just mentioned over on Builds and Stuff, I'll put a link up in the top corner and down there, on small stuff, this will beat the Milwaukee for speed. If you want speed, then that's a very good impact driver until you get to really big stuff, and then it's really hard to beat a Milwaukee. Let's now take a look at the chucks on these things and just how they work and what's different between each brand. The AEG is a single-handed affair, like so, just push it in, boom, and as you'll see, the collet pops back and stays back, and then when you push it forward, it ejects your bit. The Ryobi is identical, same chuck, poke it in one hand, pull it to release it, squash the ant, sorry little ant. And next the Bosch, can't push it in one-handed, you have to pull this big red ring, which is quite tight, and then it's still not the easiest thing to get in, so just not as good as the other ones. It takes a bit more to release. You've got to really have that at full extent. If you have it sort of part way, it just, yeah, it's my least favorite. But of course it has a funny looking end because it also takes sockets, so it's not only a high torque impact driver, but it's also a low torque wrench for 1/2 inch socket. Next up, the DeWalt quite nice and easy to put in, very simple, and has an eject as well. The AEG and the Ryobi and the DeWalt all have this eject, but sometimes it fires out and sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the bit and depends on the angle and all sorts of things. But yeah, quite easy on the DeWalt, although like most of the DeWalts, quite a bit of play in it. Next up, the Ryobi. What do we got here? Doesn't want to go in. Not single-handed. You have to pull the collet and poke it in like so. Release like so. That is the only one, I believe, that is fully one-handed, apart from the Bosch, of course, but that has that different mechanism, so you can kind of understand it. The Makita, boom, goes in nice and easy. Pull out like that. Doesn't eject, but nice. Probably the easiest one to get the bit into. Yeah, nice and easy. 40 volt, goes in real easy as well, but perhaps a little too easy, because if we take a look at this footage, you'll see that it just pops out when you don't want it to. They tweaked where they put the ball in this chuck. They've reverted back now, I do believe, but yeah, releases bits sometimes under pressure. The Milwaukee used to do that quite a lot too. This is the Gen 4, which has a better chuck, single-handed again, but you need to pull and release with your other hand, unlike the two cheaper TTIs, the AEG and the Ryobi, which will sort of self-eject. And last up we have the Panasonic. Which one is it? It goes in as well, single-handedly. Pull it to take it out. Quite tight. Not a lot of play in that one. Quite a nice chuck. Good solid chuck. The AEG and the Makita 18 volt both have the control panels on the back. This one is in Japanese, as you can see, because this is a Japanese import. But that makes it so much easier for setting things, because you're holding it like this. Makes much more sense. You're looking straight at this bit, then to turn it around. Sometimes the numbers are up one way, sometimes they're up the other way, depending on the brand. Sometimes, like for instance, Milwaukee, up the right way when you're looking at it front on. The DeWalt, it's upside down. So yeah, on the back like that is the nicest place for it, and it's the easiest for showing off in YouTube videos, so that's my preferred placement of those. These two are the only ones that have got it out of the selection here. 3 of these have settings that can be changed via Bluetooth and an app on your phone. The Bosch, the Makita TD002G, it's the 2nd generation, the top current 40 volt, and the Ryobi. This model and the previous model will both work with Bluetooth batteries and the app. Now I'm not going to go through every single setting on these things, because to test every single setting on every single one is going to take quite some time. But I told you how many different settings there are, and basically if you want a ton of settings, get one of the Makita ones. They have the most settings that don't require taking your phone out of your pocket. Personally, I don't like the idea of having to get my phone out every time I want to change a setting on a tool. I want to be able to push it on the tool. I don't want to have to take gloves off, take masks off, fuck around with my phone. Makita, you don't have to bother doing that. The Panasonic also does something that none of the other impacts in this test do, and that's this. Hey? That's right. It is a multi-function driver, this one. And it has lots of different attachments, offset attachments, like so, but also drill attachments, cable cutters, cable crimpers. Pretty cool. So it may not have as much power as the others, but it has a lot of versatility. So what do you reckon about that? If you want to see any of these impact drivers in a review, more features about each individual one, I've done reviews of most of them down in the comments section. There will be some links in the description and up in the top corner. And if you want to see any of these other ones reviewed, they might be down there as well. Holy shit, man. I think it might be time to kill the herd. And that's not even all of them. Oh, man. Wow. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave your comments down there, and I'll see you in another one soon. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button, hit whatever you want. See you next time.
I have way too many impact drivers, but you can borrow one. I need them all for different things, including screwing down things. Impact drivers are my passion. I love impact drivers. job. They can also make big holes in lots of different